So to begin, um, the year for autumn people, um, in how they would say the months of the year, starting from um, the, they say that our new year, begins after the wine feast ceremony. Reason for that is that the wine feast ceremony cleanses out the system, your body, and the whole cleansing part of it ends, and then the new year begins. And I always say that our new year is really in after that, which is probably September, or could be September. But I've learned that the wine feast could start anywhere from June all the way to whenever. But typically we follow, and if you're going to follow the Miragan, the white way of doing the seasons, and you want to do the 3 months in that season, it would be September, October, November, and then your winter months come, and then your spring, and then your summer months for harvest. So if you're trying to learn how to say the month, the traditional, now there's differences, traditional months versus traditional months versus the modern way of saying the months. And the modern is more what happens in that month, more modernly. But for tradition, you always follow the planting or the season of how that month or that season starts to change. And one of the seasons for September is after the rains have come, the cactus wine is drunk or drank. September would start, and September is more when the rains stop, and it's the grasses that have been watered all monsoon start to change as well, and they start to change as it relates to the grasses. So September, they're trying to really push on that. In September is dry grass month. So dry grass month would be called Washai Gakitak Mashat. Mashat is always month. You're always going to fall in month. So Washai Gakitak means it's that dry grass month. So Washai Gakitak Mashat is September, because that's when the grasses start to dry. In October, the month of October, you have these little rains that are coming. So it's juk is rain, or so Arjuk, meaning Ari is little, Arjuk meaning that's the little rain month, the month of small rains. Arjuk big mashat. Arjuk big mashat is the small rains month. And in November, it starts getting a little cold, and not that it's like real cold, but as we all know that for us down here, the weather starts changing, and it's not super is cold, but it's not there yet. So they would say skug, meaning a good, pleasant weathering month. So they would say skug surpajik mashat. So yeah, surpit, but it's not that cold. So some people would say shar skug, meaning it's kind of good cold month. It's not cold, but it's getting there. So skug surpajik mashat is November. So you have Washai Gakidak Mashat, which is September, Arjukabik Mashat, which is October, and then Skug Surpajik Mashat. And I always remember this because when you jump into December, it's Gu Surpajik Mashat. So you would say Washai Gakita Mashat September, things are drying out. Arichuka Big Mashat, the little rains start coming on. Skug Supajik Mashat is kind of getting cold. Then that big Supajik Mashat comes in December. So those are when you really need to, when the real cold months start at that time. And then as you may know, that in December, once it's really cold, and nowadays it's different, but in December, the planting or the grasses start to dry out. They're starting to dry out. So when something is drying out, somebody will say gakim huki. So they will say gakim dag mashat. Gakim dag mashat, meaning it's a drying out month. And then there's two ways, or there's some ways, but two ways to say February. A lot of people would say Usberakit Mashat or Komachi, Komaki, Mashat Komachi, Komaki Mashat, which is Usberakit Mashat is more deer mating month for some of the people that hunt deer. Usberakit Mashat, and then that gray month is kind of that Komaki is kind of Skomaki is not Skomak, but it's Komaki. And then March, as the February rains come, or that grayish dark months come, sometimes you get rain, you never know what you're going to get in February. So March would be when those, and you see it now, because obviously this is March, but you see it now, is that greenery starts coming back out. So that greenery, Stutak is green, but Chutaki meaning it's starting to get green out there. So Chutaki Mashat is that green. And then as soon as it starts green, it starts turning yellow, or a lot of the yellow feathers of leaf or flowers come out. So Uam is the yellow. Uam Mashat is that yellowing month of April. And then we jump into May, which is which some people would say, oh, so Wihoradag Mashat, which is more of the mesquite bean. Wihok is more of the mesquite bean, so they know that that's when that's starting to that's the time to gather the Wihok. So they call it that Uswiharagit Mashat, or they would say Ko'okoi Mashat, meaning painful month. Ko'okoi. Ko'oki, or Ko'okoi, however you say it, is that mashat that's there. And then June is that time to gather sawara fruit. Hashan Bak Mashat. Hashan Bak Mashat. Is that how you would say the month? The Hashan is obviously the cactus, so Hashan Bak Mashat is that sawara fruit that's starting to come out. And then July is our monsoon. So as I said, Juk, February, October are the Jukabik, meaning small rain months. Juk is rain. So you could say Jukabik Mashat is that rainy month of July. Monsoon can change at any moment, but usually, and it comes like in July, second week in July, that monsoon will come and it will hit big, and it is awesome. And then as soon as the monsoon passes the Shopor, meaning small, big, a lot of the short planting month, that was when it's done. The spinach is done, although we have spinach year round, but that spinach is done. So that Shopor big Mashat is that time. So if you were to go January to December, and giving you a different way of looking at it, but if you're going to January to December, then you could say Gakim Dak Mashat, meaning it's dry out there. And then you could certainly say Komaki Mashat, which is a grayish month. And then Chutaki Mashat is that greenery starting to come out. And then that Uam is that April Uam Mashat. And then that May is that Uswiharagitag Mashat. And then June is Hashanya Bak Mashat. July is Arjuka Big Mashat. Or no, July is Juka Big Mashat, sorry. And August is that Shopor Usha Big Mashat. A lot of that small greenery that that's come out, and then you go into September, which is that Washai Gakidak Mashat. October is that Arajuka Big Mashat that you see out there, and then certainly November is Skuk Pajik Mashat, and December is Skuk Pajik Mashat. So kind of and I don't know how, I try to see it as a block in summer, a block in fall, all the way to December, and then that graying and that whole month coming out of February, March, and April before you start getting back into the harvest in Hashan Bak Mashat. So that's kind of how I try to remember it. Just, I don't know how you remember it, but we'll go ahead and do those are the traditional way of saying it. Now there's different way of saying, like, and I remember, or November for me, saying Skuk Supachik is way easier than saying that other people would say Wehanyak Mashrat. Other people would use different other way of saying the month, but that to me it's just easier to say it the way that I say it. Although people may say it different, it's their prerogative and how they want to say it, but that's kind of how I would say it. But those are the traditional months.